Welcome to the Jamodi podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. What's one thing that makes your program different?
I mean, that's a good question. And if you'd asked me that in 1995, I'd say it is. It's the fact that we not only just trying to outscore people, but we're much more concerned about the process than we are the result.
Hmm.
And the reality is that we're like, when I retired, we weren't different anymore because there's so many dang teams out there that have been copying what we do. So, but which is wonderful. But I think the group of us collectively have a sense that you have to put the process first. If you're concerned about the wins and losses, then it's a wrong place to be, because there's going to be nights when you get embarrassed and things just don't go well, and then there's going to be nights when it's the reverse, and everything in between. It's just one huge experiment. So with experiments, you learn through successes and through failure, and I think that early on, I know that there was just a sense of we're trying to do something nobody else is doing, and for everything that's happening in our league, we want to practice on a daily level, 180 degrees from that. And so that when they're playing us, they're not comfortable, and we don't have to prepare for anybody. They have to prepare for us.
Yeah.
And, we don't have to worry about anybody running a set play, because it's just going to be constant chaos. And so, we got to a point where we basically did not have to scout one iota. Like in the first 2 minutes of a game, we were able to look at whatever type of press breaker alignment they were using, and we were able to latch on to the adjustment we needed to get steals. And from then on, it was a matter of ignoring the scoreboard until there were 2 minutes left in the game, and at the 2-minute mark, figuring out a way to win. So it's that whole the whole thing is very different, or was very different. I think I don't think it's so different now. I think there's a lot, even at the NBA level, there's a lot more of free and easy. Free and easy, and then get and then kind of hunker down in winning time. But up until then, allowing the players to play.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we did. And I'd like to say we're still special, but truly we're not.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, there's been so many people that saw what you did in the 90s and 2000s, and I mean, books written about your system and how it was. And I mean, golly, basketball's been around for a long time, but there's a lot of parts of basketball that have not changed very much, that people are still doing the same way, maybe just with minor adjustments. But you did seem to come out of Grinnell, out of middle of nowhere, with this new idea and new way to play and look at the game outside the box. So you just talked about the process. Well, when you're putting in that process and there's ups and downs, you see the vision. How did you keep your players focused and believing in the vision that you could see?
I mean, you have to understand, I inherited that had 25 consecutive seasons, and won a total of 4 games in the 3 years before my arrival. And so anything that we did positive, it was something they could latch onto, and it helped their self-esteem. And in fact, the verbiage we'd use to justify what we're doing was, we just wanted people. We didn't care about the loss. We just wanted the players to come out of the game something positive to think about, and we were able to do that. It was pretty funny that we actually started winning, because we didn't really, that wasn't the goal, and
I've seen
I
you
think
say that in videos before. It always makes me laugh or it makes
I
me
know,
smile.
like
Yeah.
that was not the goal. Like the goal was really just to try and keep the the people would quit if they didn't play. Um, People would sulk when they lost. They'd give up 10 minutes in the game as soon as another team had a reasonable spread,
Mhm.
and it just wasn't fun. Like and so like we're just trying to instill something different in them um, to hopefully get them excited enough to work out in the off season and get better.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be the right fit for that group. And then when we had a little success with it, then other people started to imitate it. But you know, honestly, I think the toughest thing to have been able to do with that was like there were times when I thought we might have a better team playing a different style,
Mm.
and I was supposed to be some kind of guru, and I couldn't change. And so the toughest thing was consistently trying to reinvent the wheel and get them energized, especially after like some of the records we set are going to be really hard to break.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it turned into what we do now. What's like, it's to stop there from being tedium. I just think it. I was happy with the fact that we were able to sustain for so long and still being sustained, and
Yeah.
it's still the experiment is still growing in its own direction. And that
Has your son, I'd love to get to talk with him as well. Has he taken it kind of as his own now and is experimenting even more?
yes, he's taken a step backwards from the conservative because he's a little bit more conservative, a little bit more wants to win,
Hmm.
and he'll get over that.
He'll
He
just be
will. I think he will.
he'll be more concerned with putting on a show. I remember watching a video of they were doing a special on your team, and the players were talking about just the freedom and how they've never done anything like it before. And then it showed you guys in the locker room before a game about the huddle up, and you said, "Hey, there's some people out there that came to see you play. Let's put on a show." And I thought
Yeah,
it's Pistol Pete esque, which he was one of my favorite players to watch and emulate. And I love that mentality that you had.
yeah. Like and I think he'll. I think with age he'll graduate towards that same likeness.
Mm.
You get you think you're making a difference, and you're understanding the checks and balances and the late game situations and trying to outcoach other people, and eventually you realize that there's a lot of other good coaches out there. Like I mean, and sometimes you're going to succeed, and sometimes you're not, and some of your players are going to respond, and some aren't. So why not have fun? Like
Have fun and
it's
be and do something that, like you
like
said, when people come to play you or people come watch you play, they leave knowing that's not what you normally see and
right.
what's out there.
It's amazing how many times that people will come and watch our games for the first time, and and the script is generally the same. Like
Mm.
the first 10 minutes of a game, we're getting outscored. Like and people, they're not tired. They're carving up our press, and they're focused on whatever game plan their coach had for them, and the people in the stands will look at the newcomers will look at them and say, "What's that? I don't get it." What's it? And then the old veterans will sit there and say, "Just watch,"
Just watch.
and one person will get tired, and then one person will get in foul trouble, and then the wrong combination will be on the floor, and then bang, 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 get three threes, and then they have to call a timeout, and our guys are meeting the guys on the team over half court, and the referee's trying to separate everybody, and you're off. And it just time after time after time, it's the same thing. Like it,
Yeah.
and it's just it is. It's a 40 minutes is a long time to play a game hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is. A lot can change in a heartbeat. Like if you're just playing as hard as you can, and if you're not used to playing as hard as you can, you'll get exposed. You know,
Yeah.
for the most part. If you don't get exposed, then we're probably going to lose. But it's good for them. If they get like
There's something really pure about the system because like take a player. What all of us coaches are asking is for you to give your very, very best. But players aren't dumb. They know their limitations. They know that they have to they can go at a certain speed for 4 to 5 to 6 minutes. And so they we're not even thinking about it. They pace that way.
Right.
And then there's two other things that they're worried about if they don't even realize it. If I make a mistake, I'm going to come out. And then once I come out, am I going to get back in? But your system, it takes those three things that take away the ability to give their very, very best. It takes that away. I think it frees them up.
For sure. Like it's a little bit more difficult getting some of the people that are your best players on that page. Still, like, I mean, they're and in our system, our best players are our best offensive players.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so they're still thinking how can they score? I had a kid named Steve Beekman when we started.
I remember that name from the book. Yep.
Holy crap! This kid, he was the best offensive player I've ever had. You could absolutely pencil him in, like,
For how much?
For 30.
Okay.
Just without question, he was going to get you 30.
Uh-huh.
And he where we were playing, he just because he was so much, and they'd come to the bench, say, "Coach, I'm not tired. What are you taking me out for?" And I said, "Well, Steven, you're not running hard. You're not playing defense. I understand why you're not tired. Like you're just concentrating. He was up on front of the press, and I'd give him the choice once the ball crossed half court, whether he'd release the offensive end or whether he'd get back defensively. 100% of the time he's releasing, and he was, and half the time he wasn't getting to that first trap. And so, like, he didn't get tired. Like, and so I understood what he was doing, but he never really bought in. He didn't understand that had he worked, he could have averaged 40 points a game. We would have had 10 extra possessions a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and he shot 50% from three.
Yeah.
He's like being mauled by people. He had a low post game. He had Kevin McHale footwork and could get to the foul line 10 times a game. Like, he was just an automatic score. All he needed was the number of possessions increased. And I just couldn't convince him. Like, so occasionally I've gotten people like that, like that are just unwilling to exhaust themselves at both ends of the floor. My heart goes out to the people that are role players offensively that just bring it defensively every day. Set screens like it was their purpose on earth. Like, and those kind of guys are just, those are the ones that I probably stay in better contact with through the years.
Interesting.
I just love the raw energy they had.
Yeah, the sacrifice. Yeah.
We had a kid named Patrick Lane who I recruited him to Grinnell. He didn't come out his first year. He concentrated on track. Either second or third year, he came to me and said, I'd like to come out for his second year he came to me and said, I'd like to try out for the team. I said, sure. The guys are working out, join him. Didn't do it. His third year, he came out and saw me in the weight room and said, yeah, I'm thinking about coming out for the team this year. I said the same thing to him, sure, the guys are working out. This time he showed up and he really couldn't shoot the ball, but he was such a relentless, in condition defensive player that we adjusted our press that wherever the ball was on the court, he would trap it.
So 4 and 1 chaser.
It was incredible. It was incredible. All the two wings had to do with him was deny the corner pass coming back out, because he was going to it, like,
yeah.
so they and then release as soon as they thought we have an advantage, and we won the conference championship easily.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, it was incredible. Like, he as a one person defensive player, he just totally messed everybody up and gave us a different look.
Love that.
It came over time. It came
Yeah.
at the start, we were doing the conventional, and then, he'd be in a trap and it'd be a little slow getting the trap. So he'd say, "Oh, what the heck, I meant Joe." And then we just put it in. "All right, Patrick, throw the ball as you go get it."
I think that's one thing, common misconception when people study the system and the way that you guys played was, well, I think I've heard other people, maybe even interviews where they're talking about the system say something, well, they haven't won a national championship, as if that's the only marker for a successful program. But you did win conference championships on top of leading the nation in scoring however many years. So it did lead to success. It's not like it was just, we're just
Well,
gonna have fun. Yeah.
You have to define success.
Yeah.
Success to me is that when we have our alumni game every fall, people travel thousands of miles to get back to it. And they just, they come from everywhere, and it's just because they had fun,
Yeah.
and they, and everybody that leaves the program generally has a DVD that they're going to be able to show their grandkids that shows them doing something special. And that means way more to me than a national championship. I think if we were able, it'd be interesting. Like I've always wondered what would happen if I was at one of the Wisconsin State League schools, where they have so much depth and talent. It might be hard initially to get them on the same page about the playing time.
Yeah. The shifts. That
would be.
But it makes it work.
It does.
But it's the thing that they have to get on board with, and
right. Yeah. It helped in the early years to get off on a roll when two of our players were so much better offensively than anybody else on the team that nobody minded deferring to them. If you've got 5 people out there that can shoot, suddenly the screens don't become quite as good, because the people are thinking, well, if I give him a good screen, he can get a shot off. Maybe a little later in the possession. A lousy screen here might lead to the ball in my hands a little later. But we've gone through that before too. But it's just, yeah, it helps. It helps when you have a couple. It made it easy when you had a player in each group that was a mismatch against whomever.
Yeah.
And you could just, all you needed to do really was get them the ball.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.